Governor, Bloomberg reports this is the biggest ad buy in the presidential race so far. We talk a lot about how there have been all of these policy wins. You've seen the same polling I have seen. There is a disconnect between the policies that the Democrats in Congress, this president, have pushed forward, and the American people's perception, both that work has been done and that it's impacting their life. Do you think these ads can close that gap?
Look, Alicia, it's the start, right? As you note, we need to make sure that all Americans know who actually has their back. And what we've seen over the last years is President Biden really sort of building back from the bottom up. We've seen record-setting new job creation, and we've seen fighting to lower drug prices and cap insulin. Well, what we've seen on the other side is the exact opposite, not even protecting Social Security and Medicare, certainly not voting to allow the federal government to negotiate drug prices. So what we need to do, and that's why at American Bridge, we've started in 4 states, mostly in rural areas, reminding people who's actually fighting to make their lives better. And yeah, on the one hand, 2024 seems like a long way away, but the time to start reminding people of who's actually fighting for them is today.
Talk to me about those 4 states and talk to me about the choice to over-index these in rural areas.
Yeah, we need to make sure that, and for a guy who lives in an ex-urban area, right, that we need to make sure that all of this country knows that Joe Biden and the Democrats are fighting for them. When you talk about healthcare issues, whether that's a woman's right for her bodily autonomy or drug prices, think about half the counties in this country don't even have an OBGYN. The challenges that are faced by those extreme Republicans, what they want to do, can meaningfully impact people in rural areas. Now, we've seen in rural areas, unfortunately, over the last handful of cycles, that the Democratic brand isn't always as good. But when people are actually talking about who's fighting for their interests, who's capping insulin prices, who's actually, you can't live in a community if you don't have decent infrastructure, sewer and water, who's fighting for them? It's the Democrats. And that's why, sure, a year plus out, in some of these ex-urban areas, we're starting that reminder so that folks won't wake up the day before an election, you know, hearing some extreme stuff coming from the Republicans and say, all right, they have my back. They'll remember the Democrats actually have, and President Biden has their back.
I'm intrigued by the apocalyptic messaging coming from Republicans, because you don't have to reach that far back in history to know how it plays. You can just go to these last midterms where this was the same thing that they were selling in the midterms. It didn't work out for them. You had a lot of voters who just felt that they in general had become too extreme, that there was overreach in the case of issues such as abortion. At the same time, there's going to be all of that. And then there's going to be the other big story that we're watching today, which is at least one possible indictment of the former president. I wonder, from your vantage point, how that scrambles the equation going into 2024.
Well, look, I think in part, you know, you mentioned, oh, they make this extremist message. But maybe, to be honest, that's actually where so much of the party is. What seems so extreme to Main Street, sort of mainstream America, who just wants to make sure that, right, their communities are safe, they have a decent job, clean air and clean water, a good job. So the more that they're just talking about these issues that don't impact every single person's life every single day, they do look that much more detached. And between, you know, what may come down against former President Trump and how much of that field's fighting actually just to beat President Trump, I think as long as we can remind people who actually has your back in making your life better, that it will be good, as we saw in 2022, right? During the midterm, so many folks said, well, now it's going to be gas prices or it's going to be inflation. When all of a sudden Republicans said what nationally they've been saying on closed doors is we want to take away a right for a woman to make her own health care decisions, and we want to do it across every corner of this country, then it becomes that much more real for folks.